here in John 4:19 through 20, 25, and 26. She says, "Sir, I can see that you are a prophet." Right now, he's more than that, but we're gonna give her some credit, right? Just like we're gonna give a younger believer, somebody that we're discipling, we're gonna give her some credit. I can see that you're a prophet. You know, our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. And Jesus said to her, "Believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem." Verse 22, "You Samaritans worship what you do not know, and we worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. And yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and truth." Verse 25, "The woman said, I know that the Messiah, who's called the Christ, is coming. And when he comes, he will he will explain all these things to us." Can you imagine, him shaking his head like, and then, so this woman knows some stuff, right? And verse 26, Jesus looks at her and says, then he said to her, "I who speak to you am he." And the Greek here says that I am the I am that your fathers worshipped. So can you imagine the look on her face when he said, "I am the I am that your fathers worshipped"? I mean, she just said, hey, we know that the Messiah is coming. And he's called the Christ. And when he comes, he's going to explain all these things. Well, hello. And this is the way a lot of conversations go when we're in conversations with the guys or the ladies that we're discipling. They know something, but they haven't put it together. And God has given you and I the privilege to be the one that the Holy Spirit uses to help their eyes to be opened, their ears to be able to hear, and that's what's happening here. So in verse 19, she says, "I see that you're a prophet," and the truth is he's a lot more than that. He's far more than just a prophet. We're going to give her some credit though for what she does know, and she was still there. She hadn't turned around and left. She had some religious background, and she's slowly waking up, just like Nicodemus. He said, "We know that you're a teacher come from God," right? No, he was God who had come from God. Right? And then the Pharisees, they tried to trap Jesus. They said, "We know you're a teacher who's come from God." Like they could manipulate him. No, he's far more than that. But this woman here is slowly waking up, and that is what happens in our discipleship relationships, where the people that we're meeting with, an ongoing healthy conversations, discipleship relationships, slowly wake up to spiritual truth. And so in verse 21 through 26, Jesus clears up some of this religious traditions and the religious and confusion that happens. So Jesus is saying, you can only, when he's talking about the mountains and worshiping here and worshiping there in Jerusalem and worshiping spirit and truth, what he's saying is you can only be you can't come to the Messiah on your grandfather's coattails. You have to believe for yourself. You cannot believe because of someone else's, have someone believe for you. You can't have a relationship with someone else's Jesus. This is the battle and the walls that are falling as you and I continue in ongoing healthy relationships with our discipleships. They slowly begin to realize, hey, I can't have a relationship with somebody else's Jesus. I can't have a relationship with somebody else's story. I've had guys that I have been discipling and have them over my house, and I say, hey guys, tell me what happened this week. How'd your week go, and how'd your reading go? You read the Bible and the verses that I gave you to read, and one of the guys looked at me and said, well, my girlfriend was telling me about so and so, and I just let him go on for a second. I said, okay, well, what about the passage that I gave you to read this week? Well, I didn't really get to read that this week, and so there's this we're unaware, I think, ourselves, but I think the people that we're disciple are unaware of these things, and that is you can't have a relationship with Jesus through somebody else's story. You have to be walking with him. You have to have a personal relationship with him. You can't have a relationship with someone else's beliefs. My grandfather was a preacher. My grandma told me, but I went to Vacation Bible School when I was a kid. You can't have a relationship with God through somebody else. And so Jesus is saying true worshipers are going to come to him. He elsewhere he said, if you're of the truth, you're gonna obey. You're gonna keep following. You're gonna come to the truth. And true worshipers, he says here, are gonna come to him. They're not gonna be happy and satisfied with somebody else's story. I mean, think about that. That you claim to have a relationship with God, but everything that you've got to say is about somebody else's walk with the Lord. It's about what somebody else has got to say about the Bible. You claim to have a relationship with God, but everything that you say is about somebody else's walk with the Lord and what somebody else did. That's not good. And so true worshipers are going to come to him. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be satisfied. You're not going to be able to fake it and keep telling somebody else's story. You're not going to be happy or satisfied with someone else's thoughts and someone else's walk. Eventually, I mean, if you really are born again, there's going to be a desire in you to want to be authentic, to want to be transparent. I mean, it's a crisis of conscience where you finally come to, the point where you can't fake it anymore. And so Jesus is telling this woman that a time is coming, and it's here. The time is here. And there's going to be one Spirit, one Lord, not in the mountains over there and Jerusalem over here. One Spirit, one Lord, one baptism, God and Father of all, over all, in all, by the Spirit of God. And so Jesus is pointing this out to her, and she says, I know that when the Messiah comes, well, he's going to explain all this to us. And she's still not getting it, maybe just a little bit. She's trying. She's saying what she knows. She's in this conversation. This is so much like so many of my discipleship conversations. where they're saying what they know. But I know there's still more to learn. And so he looks at her and he says, I who speak to you am he. There's a song by a group called Addison Road that I just love. When I play it, I really can't get it loud enough. Just turn that thing up, man. But the song says, well, a couple of the lines in the song says, what do I know of holy? Where have I ever stood but the shore of who you are? Think about the grandeur, the majesty of God and what he's doing in the hearts of men with Christ on the cross, being born in a manger, not in a palace, riding in on a donkey, not a stallion, born to a poor young couple, not born to rich aristocrats, born in Bethlehem, not in Rome. All these things scream of the grandeur, the simplicity at the same time. I mean, who could do that but God? The simplicity of the gospel and the love of God for everyday people. And then this song by Addison Road says, where have I ever stood but the shore along your ocean? I mean, if you have been to the ocean and you stood there like ankle deep, maybe knee deep, and you just looked out and just imagined the depth of the oceans, and then you say, where have I ever, you get a glimpse, a picture, a little vision of God, and your only conclusion is to be able to say like Job again, but you say, where have I ever stood but the shore? You are so great, so majestic, so mighty. I mean, the astronauts, when the astronauts were in outer space, they said the most amazing thing was not the little blue ball called Earth. It wasn't the little blue ball that we were looking at that took our breath away, right? It was the black. It was the vastness of the heavens, the universe. That is what took our breath away, not the beautiful blue ball that we call Earth. It was the black. It just went on and on and on. And then this song from Addison Road, where have I ever stood but the shore along your ocean? And then the next line says, if you touched my face, would I even know it? If you were to bless me with your presence and touch my face, would I even know it? And so here was Jesus in this conversation, brushing up against this woman's face in this conversation, and with his words and relating to her. And that's our desire, to be able to live our life in such a way that God will use us to help people to awaken to his glory and his grandeur. So here in verse 25, and he's clarifying her religious ideas about Jerusalem and worshiping in the mountains, and the true worshipers are gonna come. This is one of the main things I say over and over and over to guys that I'm discipling. If you really are born again, you're gonna follow. You're not gonna quit. You won't be able to quit because of the presence of God in your life. You're going to want to push through. You're going to somehow, this is why we say we fall down 6 times, we get up 7. You're going to want to keep following. You're going to want to get up because you've caught just a little glimpse of the glory of God. And that little glimpse is too good to throw in the towel. Even though there's sin in your life, even though you're not what you want to be. You find somebody that you can trust, or you talk to God Himself, and you're honest with Him, and you're not being a hypocrite, and you're not going to make excuses for your sin so that grace can increase. You're not going to keep doing that. And so, in our following, true worshipers are going to keep following. They're going to come to Him, not happy with somebody else's Jesus and somebody else's walk, but we're going to persevere. It's called the perseverance of the saints. It's called sanctification. And we're going to do that ourselves with character and integrity, and we're going to be the kind of men who will help other men learn and follow in the same way.